I'm really pleased to welcome you all today. This is our first Melbourne Week Design event, and I'd especially like to welcome our guest speakers, Sarah and Matt Feder from Troppo Print Studio. My name is Anne Carew. I'm the Curatorial Officer of the RMIT Design Archives, and with us today is the Collection Coordinator, who you may have met on the way in, and Simone Rule, the Archives Officer, and we've also got Charles helping out today as well. We're part of RMIT Library now, part of a group called the Cultural Collections Group. So for those of you unfamiliar with the archives, we collect Melbourne-based design practices from the mid-century until today. And this space you're in is our research space. It's also where we host public events, student visits, research visits. We love to be part of the broader Melbourne cultural events where we can have members of the public in who perhaps don't have a particular research inquiry but want to find out a bit more about us or a particular collection. We also publish a journal, which you can see down there, and that's available online. Our collection is also available online, so if you see anything you want to find out a bit more about today, please visit the online collection. So Sarah first visited the archives in 2024 when she was researching an exhibition for Troppo Print Studio, Future Foundations, a political poster show. And more recently, she and Matt have been researching the work of the Jigsaw Factory. I'm just going to give a very brief introduction to the Jigsaw Factory, and then Sarah and Matt are going to talk about their project and some of the work on the table. The Jigsaw Factory was established in 1970 by Alexander Stitt and Bruce Weatherhead. They were both graduates of RMIT's School of Applied Art. Bruce was 1 year behind Alex, and they'd had another business prior to establishing the Jigsaw Factory. So the Jigsaw Factory was created as a place for children to learn in a fun manner. And the studio produced educational materials for children aged 6 to 12, including many of the materials you see here today: board games, posters, books, and toys. They also created some memorable characters, and the characters were created by Alex Stitt and includes Og, who you can see on the table here in various formats, and Oliver the Ostrich, who appeared in a cartoon strip in The Age, which you'll be able to look through this folder here and see some of the cartoons, comics I should say. The Jigsaw Factory's work evolved in collaboration with educators Bill and Lorna Hanna. Lorna in particular was a graduate teacher who was dismayed when she entered the workforce to find how boring a lot of the educational resources were for primary school students. And so she and her husband, Bill, collaborated throughout this whole project with Alexander Stitt and Bruce Weatherhead. So, for instance, part of the way they collaborated in the comic strip, Alex did the illustrations and Lorna and Bill provided the words. So there's lots to explore. The other thing is that it was interesting because it was really aimed at children aged 6 to 12, but it's got this amazing hold over adults, and that legacy has continued. The factory also was ahead of its time in the way that they produced materials that introduced complex political and environmental ideas through fun, educational and interactive design. So today's session forms part of Troppo Print Studio's ongoing research into archival collections of graphic design. And in this instance, they've been particularly inspired by the Jigsaw Factory's Dictionary of Magic. This is going to be a real treat today to hear Sarah and Matt talk about their work and their insights into this beautiful collection. And we're also going to hear about their new book, which is called A Dictionary of Hand Printing. And there's also going to be a fun activity at the end of this session. So please join me in welcoming Sarah and Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, thanks for the great intro.
I guess I'd like to say thanks for having us, first off.
Yep.
Thanks for enabling us to look at this Jigsaw Factory collection of works. It's been the starting point for our book that we've made.
Yep.
Shall we?
Definitely. We started to, as last year, we came to the RMIT Design Archive to check out the political posters from Melbourne collectives, and then since then we've been drawn back to the archive, always looking through it, and we came upon the Dictionary of Magic.
Yeah. Matt was looking through the online collection, which is a great resource, and then we kind of thought it would be cool to make a dictionary of hand screen printing.
Yeah, it kind of opened our eyes to the Jigsaw Factory.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard of the Jigsaw Factory before, and then as we're big op shoppers, so as we're going to op shops, we'd always see Jigsaw Factory puzzles,
Mm-hmm.
and then we noticed at home we also had some, because we have a daughter, so we have some Jigsaw Factory snakes and ladders posters as well, and it just started coming up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that one of the members also did the Life Be In It cartoons as well, and the Slip Slop Slap.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a seagull as well. So it had always sort of been around. And then we came to the archive and were blown away at the material they had.
Yep. I guess some of the things that were big standouts that we saw a bit of a crossover between what we're interested in terms of screen printing. Screen printing is so bold and so colourful and so kind of effective, and we saw lots of parallels within the types of works that they were making at the Jigsaw Factory. And also being able to come here and see the actual hand-drawn elements.
The paste ups with the letter set.
Where do we
lettering. There's a hand drawn.
So this one is it's just so
there.
amazing to see the actual, I don't know, in this life of kind of digital creation and being able to amend things instantly on pads and things. It's just so nice to kind of slow down and pay attention to all those kind of little marks and mistakes and wonky letters and so on and so forth.
And even though on that image there, I'm pretty sure they had their own typeface, jigsaw typeface made by Letraset. They even drew it by hand as well. They could have pasted it up with the Letraset, but they still drew it by hand. Maybe lightboxed it or
Other kind of other works that I think I found interesting from this collection were educating people on kind of recycling and rubbish and the environment in just such a playful and kind of interactive way.
Yeah, they have the rubbish game, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And an awesome that's it there, isn't it? And the awesome Spellbound game about spelling.
Yeah, that's so clever.
Yeah.
And I think as well that there was really kind of the way that they chose to play with sharing information through the combination of images, puns, and...
Yeah, fun. It wasn't dry at all. It's really fun, really poppy, a bit psychedelic.
And really gets you thinking as well. I remember looking through some of the spelling ones and I was trying to figure out what the answers were, and I couldn't get all of them. So, that's sometimes, like Matt said, we have a kid too, so I guess we're tending to pay more attention to educational materials that are available now.
And infographics.
Yeah, and sometimes they just feel a bit meaningless.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to kind of see what kids were looking at in this time period and see the ways that they were challenging kids and adults to, piece together images, text and information in a digestible kind of manner.
With loud colours.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah.
So did we want to look through? I think it's offset printed. So I think every layer is printed individually on plates, and the layers are overlaid so you can see where the colours are overlaid, and that's called trapping, or in other printing terms, it's spread and choke. Yeah.
I think a big thing about this book is the layout. Like, there's lots of different sections of information. I think these days there's rules about how many different types of fonts you can have on a page and what's reasonable spacing and so on. But I think this book seemed... maybe obviously the rules may have been different back then, and I'm sure they were, but it's just nice to see so much information and kind of separated through colour. White space, being okay with having white space. That's, somewhere to rest your eyes, maybe even make some notes or imagine a story as well. Space for imagining.
But also, like with the fonts, it's also interesting when you start looking at the fonts, like all the different fonts they've used in all that. They don't have a specific brand font. They have their own typeface, but as I said, they still change it. And even in the posters, they're using three different typefaces. This is the Letraset guide, where you'd order the typefaces. It looks like they've just gone through the whole Letraset guide and just picked out all the ones they like. So this is the order form where you'd order sheets of text typefaces. Letraset typefaces that can be added to your paste up, your designs. It's like a temporary tattoo kind of thing, where you sort of rub the letters and they are applied to your design.
I think there's a big reason why this is so important. This is a big part of Matt's method of making.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think he's crazy for it, but it looks really good. So he scans the fonts from the Letraset book, and he also scans the textures section, which are literally these really small rectangles, which I can't find right now.
Yeah, so
but he
like
scans them and then piece by piece places them
rather
than typing or rather than filling with a pattern.
So to digitally try to emulate because I don't know how long this stuff's going to keep going for. So I just scan it and then digitally use it in my designs.
But it does do something different about it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not so perfect, really. And with I know you can get like brushes that do this sort of thing now with tones and textures, but they're still, I don't know, pretty samey when everybody uses them. These are the old. You could get the textures as well in sheets of texture. I haven't got the sheets, but I've got these little rectangles. So I just build. It's like a painstaking thing. I don't know.
I think it ties into the fact that we like screen printing.
Yeah.
And so we're both process-based people.
Yeah.
Screen printing allows us to kind of slow down work in the process of making. You have to make your decisions at the beginning and then kind of slowly follow through with the decisions you've made. If you need to make any corrections, you kind of need to commit to that correction because it takes time to fix it. And I think that ties in with Matt's method of making as well. I'm kind of getting on board with this because I just really like the effect, but I can't quite do it as well as Matt can. But yeah, so the kind of use of Letraset, the fact that in this time period things were being done by hand, they were considered, they were very, very intentional.
It gives you
mistakes
parameters.
were timely. So I think that's another really big similarity as well. It's just kind of being involved in the process, wanting to enjoy it, and potentially this was a playful period for them. They wanted to make something for kids, something educational, and we are not as pressured by responsibility in some ways that other people might be who actually work as graphic designers and communications people who need things to be efficient. Yeah. So,
and it's good to have parameters to only be able to use the fonts in that book, the typefaces in that book, and the textures in that book. Otherwise, it's hard to make decisions.
Yeah, it's a bit,
Never ending.
Never ending, that's right, yeah. What else?
Do we want to go through the book a little bit?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Turn some
Yeah,
pages?
go for it. You turn some pages.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that this book is a dictionary of magic for kids. It's like, it's got so many like occult references, and it's even got on the next page. So it was from kids from 6 till 12. So they can start at tarot. They can start doing readings as well from 6 till 12. And they've recreated a full tarot set here that you can cut out and give readings to your friends. Really good. And on the next page, there's a Ouija board as well for you to use, and they've got really the 60s sort of fonts as well that they've been using that are in the Letraset guide as well, so that's pretty good. Contact previous designers.
Help me make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, runes. Yeah, it's really good, really, really educational, really fun. Monsters, Dracula.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So this is, some of these really big images in here are really great because you get to see the decisions in terms of trapping and overprinting. When you're doing screen printing, you need to consider overprinting so that you can reduce the amount of screens that you use to print each layer, and also get the maximum number of colours from one print. I'll show you an example. It's going to be a small one. Okay. So, for example, when you're planning a 3-layer screen print and you want more than 3 colours, you kind of need to consider how they might interact when you print one colour on top of another. So if we're talking about blue, red and yellow, printing blue, red and yellow in that particular order, you can get orange, purple and green as well. So you can get 6 colours from 3 layers. And so that is something that obviously there's parallels with offset printing too, because you need to consider those things. And you also need to consider trapping. If you don't consider trapping, then you get misregistration, which is all those little white lines around the in between the kind of outline and the fill of an image. Being able to look at these things in real life, and I keep saying that because sometimes we've contacted places that have archives and they're like, why can't you just look at the digital image? Yeah. And it's just not the same as looking at the real thing. You can't inspect it in such a way.
You mightn't pick up the trapping.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, someone who's taking a really good picture of something is not necessarily focusing on, does it? Yeah. Can you see the difference in colour change between where the trapping is and where the trapping isn't? So, yeah, it's just been really amazing to kind of look through this and see the differences in colours, where they've decided to keep kind of unnecessary trapping, I suppose, and where they have excluded it. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, fruit boxes are a really good
educational
on trapping
tool.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, really,
definitely.
Really good
and
example.
Overprinting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the use of tones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah.
We had made these pizza boxes a while back, and Matt designed this.
We're finding some
Ouija
similarities, not really comparing ourselves to the Jigsaw Factory, but there is some like crossover and some similarities, like the taste in like Ouija boards and magic and typefaces, and
there is actually a glow-in-the-dark image on there.
Oh yeah, as well.
Yeah. But I don't know if anyone ever found it.
Yeah, true. Like
'Cause you
little
have to,
gimmicks and
you
stuff
know,
like that.
there's an image of a face coming out from the
Yeah.
Ouija board,
Yeah.
but obviously you can't see it till it's
Yeah,
charged at
till
night
it's-
time and
yeah.
you turn the light off and then maybe
like
you'll
an
see
Easter
it.
egg
But we didn't
kinda.
really tell anyone, so
Yeah. I don't know if they found it or not. Yeah.
yeah, I might be trapped in there forever.
Yeah, so we screen. This is the book, and that's the book that inspired this book, and it's a bit smaller, but we did what we could. We hand screen printed the book. Every page is hand screen printed.
So we did 100 books.
Around-
We printed them in spreads.
Yeah.
So we printed them like this. So even though we knew we were going to cut it up to spiral bind it and we weren't going to do signatures and all that kind of thing, we still wanted to be kind of strategic about our decisions, printed them in spreads and then cut them in half.
Yeah. So we tried to use some of the colours in each
I can
spread,
pass this
some of the
around
same
if anyone
colours.
wants to look at it.
Yeah, and so we printed each layer through a screen. This is a small version of a screen we used. It's just kind of like like fly screen, and then we coat it with photographic emulsion and expose it to UV light. And that burns the image into the screen, and we wash it out, and we've got a stencil. So like Sarah was saying, there's about 51 layers in that, so it's like 51 screens possibly. Yeah.
51 film, yeah.
Process,
Too recent
so,
to really
yeah.
think that it was a good process.
This is one of the screens that we used. It got ripped. Because we have a shared studio, so people can come in, use the studio, and make prints, join up, kind of like a gym, but for printing. And they can use the space. And sometimes things get damaged, but it's okay.
Luckily, we finished printing
it.
it.
Got ripped.
Someone
yeah,
dropped a screen on it.
and that's an
anyway.
example of, that's the cover, actually, on there.
So that's the orange layer for the cover.
Yeah, and that's like the back as well. So the back and the front were printed at the same time. And that just blocks out the white cloud, actually. But I can pass that around, sorry. That's an example of the screen. Yeah, and we tried to do as much hand drawing as we could, and physical mark making as well. So we've done a lot of little swatches for the marks for that page there, to show that you can draw directly onto the film and then expose your drawing directly. So you don't really need
If you've got
computers
the time.
if you've got the time,
Yep.
but it also helps. We use computers as well, though. We use like both technologies. Yeah, it makes things a bit easier when you've got to blow things up and shrink things down. You don't want to photocopy everything.
To start off the process, we'd both been working on our dictionary terms, and everything is pretty rat baggy, but that's the nature of probably how I work, is a bit more of a rat bag than you. So we started off with our lists, what terms we thought related to the process of screen printing, particularly hand screen printing, because that's what we do. We don't do kind of commercial screen printing like t-shirt printing or so on. Then from there, you kind of got an early start.
Yeah, we sort of worked like, I guess we picked the things we wanted to draw, so that were more fun to draw. So we sort of narrowed it down.
I like
things.
drawing diagrams.
Yeah,
apparently.
Infographics, and
Matt's good at characters.
Yeah, I did all like the silly kind of characters, which I thought related again to the Jigsaw Factory kind of graphics as well. So I wanted to make it fun and silly graphics.
Yeah, we just wanted it, because we've got quite a few screen printing books and they are quite dry. Reading over these techniques and so on. But we just wanted to make something that was quite playful, had enough information to understand the process, and then, give you the space to jump from there and get stuck in. Yeah.
With a couple of jokes in
yeah.
there as well. But we also, because we had a glossary as well of terms, so there's like extra terms in there that we couldn't fit on the pages. That's actually Rizzo printed, risograph which is like a cousin of screen printing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What else can we talk about in terms of design? Drawing, scanning, photocopying, and then redrawing. So that was kind of the process as well. Just in I tend to draw things really small, which isn't that helpful. So I kept having to enlarge them to get my lines a bit thicker so that they were suitable for screen printing. Because there's nothing worse than printing 100 of something and then realising that your lines are just getting thinner and thinner and they've actually just disappeared and there's nothing you can do about it because it's already been burnt. If it's already burnt into the screen or if it's already thin to start with, it's a quick spiral downwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
I'm sure there's more we can talk about.
is it like any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Or
I'll talk about this one first.
yeah.
So after we did do the drawings, we kind of ended up scanning things into the computer. Then we'd need to make our film work. So this is the film work that's used to expose the screens.
It's kind of like photography, like old school photography, where you take the film into the darkroom and you expose it.
Yep.
And we expose it directly onto the screen.
And so can you hold this one as well, Matt? Yep. So this one is this gradient is obviously a significant thing in screen printing. So we've got that orange to yellow gradient. People always want to do gradients, but they can get kind of a bit crap really quickly. So we've kind of written a little bit of a guide on hopefully how to get a good one from, 3 minutes into it. So that was kind of, you can see the spread that Matt printed that we've then cut into two and split across these 2 pages here. But yeah, I guess that one just involved a little bit of planning in terms of what needed to be apparent in the design. We didn't want to lose things. If they were in the yellow section, they may not be as apparent as if they were in the red kind of area in that section there. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes, 100%, yeah. So me and Matt have been running Troppo since 2018. It used to be in a real small space and now it's a slightly bigger space. It is a membership access space as well as a workshop space and so on.
Yeah, so we have members that come in, use the space, make prints, and like yesterday was the Melbourne Art Book Fair, and the members got to display and sell some books that they've made and prints as well.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's that. And then, so we do beginners workshops, but we also do intensives to get people up to speed so that they can become a member of the studio as well.
Yeah, print clubs as well.
Print clubs. We have a social club coming up this Friday. Our social clubs, we have a different artist or creative come each time.
Yeah, so that's like
and they kind of have a piece of work that as a group we deconstruct and reconstruct together collaboratively. This time it's going to be with me, which should be, I think it's going to be good. It's the first one I've done as being the artist, I guess. And we're going to be looking at 5 different techniques like CMYK, Ruby Lith, which is an old school technique from the kind of 70s, 80s, as well as some other things I'm going to decide on before Friday. But it's an experimental session with no pressure, where everyone leaves with a 3-colour screen print. So everyone's involved in the making and everyone is involved in the printing as well. If we can keep wrangling people, yeah. But as was mentioned, we had Future Foundations in 2024 and 2025, which was very much a collaborative research project, kind of also community, like in a way we were meeting a lot of people who'd made those screen printed posters from the, even from the 70s, who are still making art and political stuff now,
Yep.
all the way right to contemporary makers. So I guess it was a really big part of what we've kind of been working on the past couple of years. Educating ourselves on the techniques, the different techniques people were using,
And
the reasons, the design.
And why it was designed the way it was.
Yeah, and the kind of limitations that people were presented with in terms of access to equipment or even paper for printing. Like there's a really amazing Jill posters. It's like a 4-layer screen print, but on the back is this other amazing offset image about the structure of a union building.
Yeah.
But it's all been the original was all hand drawn. So, people were collecting waste materials from this place and then reusing it for crazy screen printed posters that was just going to be,
And it's a real snapshot of the past ephemera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, always accessing these things has just been so amazing to kind of see other people's approaches and the energy that they were putting into it and how that kind of keeps just wiggling around and moving forward. We also made this Future Foundations zine, Rizzo printed zine in the second time around, so the 2025 exhibition that we did. Everything that's in here is kind of the artist statements related to the screen printed posters that were in the show. So they give us a snapshot of the time and the reasoning behind the work. When we were making this, I'll start again. The background of this text is newspaper articles that were written. Where are you going? Okay. So the newspaper articles in the background are written in the time that the poster was made. So, for example, there's one screen printed poster, which is it's an anti-Anzac Day poster by Jill Posters from the 70s. And I think that for me, I had to kind of educate myself on what was going on in that time period. And I read an article that there was 175 women arrested at an anti-Anzac Day rally on Anzac Day. And so just kind of building a picture of the life experience in that time and how that fed into the posters and then how that has continually informed all the people after that kind of process. Like the standing on the shoulders of giants kind of phrase. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And every page in that was made
the collage.
By hand as well, like cut out.
I just couldn't do it on a computer.
Yeah.
I tried, but
then
I couldn't imagine it, so I just needed to cut it out physically and stick it down.
Yeah, for that like sort of punk aesthetic. But when the curator came to edit the thing, we had to physically like cut words out.
He's
the computer came in
380.
handy then for clone
I needed to
stamping
fix
stuff
380 things.
Edits.
Yeah,
so
and
that
I'm
was
like,
kind of hard.
it's a physical thing, and he's like, yeah, that's okay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's
with the kerning
printed.
and stuff as well.
So if you do look through it, there's all these clone stamp the bits that you miss if you clone stamp things on Photoshop. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess sometimes it's not so much that I don't want to use computers, it's more that I'm not particularly good at certain things on computers. So I just find another DIY way to do it that I can physically kind of control.
Yeah, but even like with the book, all the things that we've written in the book did come from questions from workshops.
Oh yeah, totally sorry.
And experiences in the studio.
Yes, yeah.
So it was just like, it's like a lot of it's just stream of consciousness as well. Like we didn't look up too many things. We double checked a few things just in case.
Yeah, because you'd be like, surely there's a word that begins with X or something. Yeah.
So we had to cheat on
so
X
we made
and
up
just
some
did
things.
Words with X in it, like expose and mix.
Yeah, because even like in the studio, yes, we do lots of workshops and when we get to engage with lots of people, but we also do stuff. Matt's been doing workshops at George Patton Gallery for a while.
Yeah.
And in, a couple of gallery spaces that we've done stuff in. So yeah, we do meet lots of different kind of people doing different things. And one of the first ones is apron. So it's amazing how many people put aprons on in different ways.
Yeah, and there's difficult aprons as well with different
They're all
straps,
different.
kind
yeah.
of like a straight jacket, kind of.
Yeah, and some of them are, hanging down here, and
Yeah,
you
because
kind
they're
of
all
like,
from.
you just want to tighten
yeah.
people's straps up, but you can't do that. So
Even the aprons in the
just write about
studio,
it.
they're all from op shops and stuff, so they're all different types, sizes, and styles.
We've got one good one at the moment, which is a red one, which has a yellow
It's a
whale
kid's
on
one.
it. But people are really drawn to it.
Yeah.
So they're wearing a little kind of.
Yeah, it's small.
I wear it. It's quite. It's
kind of
funny.
like a tank.
Yeah,
apron.
yeah, it's
But-
good. What else? Yeah, I mean, the reason I mentioned gradients is because when we also teach, a lot of people want to do gradients, and where I teach screen printing, the students are always like, "Oh, can we do gradients?" And gradients are outright banned because it wastes quite a lot of ink.
Yeah.
And once someone does a gradient, everyone wants to do gradients.
Yeah.
And then you've got lots of kind of semi.
Because if you mix two colours
Good
together
gradients.
and make a gradient, it creates a third colour, and then you've got a pot for the yellow, a pot for the blue, but maybe not a pot for the third colour. So you need extra. So it is a bit of a waste. And you can do multiple colours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gets a bit messy.
Sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Gradients
But there's a
workshop.
guide in there. And sort of.
Yeah,
and it's not really
exactly,
like
yeah.
a how-to book either. It's just a dictionary of terms with a little bit of how-to, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
but there's
yeah.
a lot of examples within the printing itself.
I think we also had hoped that we could include more interactive things, like we'd found in the Jigsaw
Yeah.
Factory's archive. Like, for example, this, what's it say? Polypops, easy to press and make up polylion gift box. So I'd be pretty happy if I had... The object that
cut.
it makes is amazing, and in itself, it's such a nice graphic. What am I trying to say? Oh, yeah, we had hoped to include things that in here that you could
I did
maybe test out yourself.
Yeah, I envision like the middle pages to be like a printing press.
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
I
But
remember
it's
that.
we had parameters and time limits and
We wanted, pop-up elements and kind of
Yeah.
different, maybe even some physical examples of direct-to-film. So, this is all covered in ink and acrylic paint and oil pastel. But within reason.
yeah.
Another time.
Yep.
Yeah. What's your thoughts?
Any questions?
I had a question just about this torn screen that we saw.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
What is that made of? Because it almost feels like a not woven. Is it just super fine weave? Like I've never seen a screen like that before.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's super fine and it's a high count mesh. I think it's probably a 120T mesh screen, and it's a yellow mesh, and that is supposed to refract the light a bit differently to give you a crisper image.
Compared to a white mesh screen.
Yeah, so it's basically a fly screen, but a tighter weave, and it's nylon. Like
Yeah.
Apparently, the first ones were human hair. Then it was silk, as they say, silk screen. But now it's plastic.
Just not, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, the good thing of it's relatively strong, unless someone hits it with a metal
yeah.
corner.
And then it's not wasted. Then you can then use that to strain out your ink. So if you got old ink, you can pour it into it, strain it through it. So yeah, you can keep on using it. Yeah.
And the meshes go from like 35 up to 100 and
Yeah.
50 or
35 is
something.
like wide mesh. You could print glitter through it.
metallic inks.
Yeah. And
Really
then it
fine glitter.
Finer
metallic inks.
for your finer details. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yes?
In terms of the inks that you use,
Yeah.
are they plastic-based? Are they ways to mitigate environmental?
We use only water-based inks in the studio. They are acrylic based, but they're so we use acrylic paints. We also use permaset inks as well.
Yeah.
These inks are Soil Association approved.
Yeah.
We have a separation tank as well to kind of strain sediment from when we're washing our screens, strains the sediment from going into the water system. The reason why we use water-based inks over oil-based inks is
Or
the cleanup
solvent-based, yeah.
or solvent-based. The cleanup, traditionally oil-based inks were used, all the way up to the early 90s, and then they started to see people were getting cancer
bit
because of the
carcinogenic.
carcinogenic
Yeah.
nature of the inks.
Yeah.
So screen printing saw a bit of a kind of downturn, I suppose, in interest in it, as well as the rise of faster ways of printing.
Yeah, and then we can wash out with water with these, where with the others you'd use terps. So, yeah.
So we hear stories of how in screen print studios, there used to be breadline posters in Sydney Road, which turned into Red Letter, which turned into Red Planet. They had terps, just hoses.
Like a hose with terps.
And just
so they're
smoking
probably smoking
cigarettes
as
and
well,
just
right?
terps
Like a
hose.
flamethrower.
Yeah, so it's just really crazy to imagine the difference between now and then, And I'm sure there is always a downside, I suppose, to having any kind of creative
Yeah.
physical method
We
of
try to
making,
think
but then
about that
also
as well.
power and electricity of using digital stuff is,
Yeah, and like with the book, like we were saying before, we wanted to include positives, but then it's like we don't really want to include plastic sheets within. So we try to think about that sort of thing, and even with the packaging and stuff.
we still have
we
a lot
don't
of
have
packaging
plastic
because we couldn't make
packaging.
a decision.
We were wrapping it in paper, and
We'll get there though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because these were just finished on Thursday.
yeah,
So yeah.
and bound,
Yeah, we made them all, and then we,
Hot off the
obviously we
press.
designed it, we screen printed it, we cut it down,
Yeah.
guillotine, and then
got it bound.
got it bound. Yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't do that part. But yeah, it's been really fun, kind of, to make it.
yeah, it's been good.
And I think in terms of colours, we kind of wanted to match the kind of,
Vibrant.
semi-basic colours
poppy,
that were
yeah.
from the 70s. You've got your nice green, your nice brown, and classic blue colour.
Yeah, and with the letter set as well, the typefaces, I think it kind of draws inspiration from the Magic Book as well. Yeah.
Is there any other questions or other interests in screen printing? Tried any things out? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, I just we just did it then. I have the post-it note in my. No. No.
They're so neat.
Where the post-it notes are in the book, they match up to some of the typefaces they used on the posters. There's fun ones like pinball and there's all different. Yeah.
Neon. That's a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this your guys' first sort of instructional text of this nature, or have you made like a dictionary or a guide before?
No, we haven't. We just
first one.
usually we make large, like the only one is direct-to-film posters that we've made for teaching, instructional teaching.
Oh yeah. It was little
It's
like examples.
yeah, they're kind of like this, but a bit more detailed with a few, just say like, that's ink, that's acrylic paint, that's maybe a marker. Yeah.
Because some of the samples that we have in the workshop space or in the teaching space, I think we're keen to not make them too leading about what you should do with these particular mediums. It's just they're kind of just examples of what it will look like rather than how you might go ahead and use it.
Like a starting point. Yeah.
Because I don't know, you don't want to, infiltrate kind of people's things. Any questions? Any other? I don't know what the time is.
Yeah.
How was it received over the weekend?
We've got so much stuff on the store.
Yeah.
And it's also colourful. So a lot of people kind of stand there and they're kind of, just taking it all in. And we had some really great screen printed books by Ori Wood and Lorette and Jess.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there's one.
Chris
But it was good.
Doyle.
Yeah, I got a positive response, definitely. And it was
It's
nice
pretty
to do a little
niche.
talk there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thanks. What's the the time? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, we have an activity.
We've got an activity as well. Forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Into a mini workshop. I just wanted to say that likewise I have trolled the op shops and found a copy of Spellbound, and I've been playing it with my 5-year-old.
Oh.
And he tells me he loves the Lollipop Forest, but he's not so keen on Dead Man's Fall. So it's still a hit with the 5-year-olds. I just want to say thank you for being so generous with your knowledge and your enthusiasm for the subject. I have been fortunate to do a mini workshop, and you guys really make it feel achievable for somebody who's never done screen printing before. And it has been an absolute joy to have you in the archives. Every time you visit, your enthusiasm is contagious, and
cool.
we all get very excited when we get to pull out all this colourful material. So thank you very much for being here today. And thank you to Anne, Simone and Charles for their hard work behind the scenes setting this up. We are a small team and we do what we can. We are going to transform this end of the table into a workshop. There are also copies of the publications available. You'll have to see these two for payment. Not sure how that's working. But feel free to have a look at the materials, at that end. And these ones will just have to shuffle down. Thank you. A little round of applause, I think.